Hi everybody, we are going to take the same example we did for the direct method, and this time we are going to apply the step method to and calculate the assignment of service cost to production department. Again, the goal, let me remind the goal here. So the goal is we have service departments in a production environment, and eventually what we want to do is to calculate the product cost, and hence we need to move the service cost towards production department and eventually calculate the product cost. So this is one of those steps, and there are different methods to move service department cost to production departments. One of them was the direct method we saw earlier in the example, and in this case we are going to solve with the step method. Now, in the step method, the first thing we are going to do is we are going to distribute S1 over the cost of S1 over S2, P1, and P2. And sometimes the question arises whether we should start with S1 or S2 and what's the rule of thumb. And usually the one that has a higher percentage to the service department would go first. For example, if this would be 30%, then I would start with S2. But now I realize the percentages are the same, so it really doesn't matter at this point whether I allocate S1 first or S2 first. Hence, I'm starting with S1. So in order for me to start with S2, this number should be higher than this number here. Okay, so allocating S1 over S2, P1, and P2 is relatively easy. What we need to do is take the $10,000 and then distribute it by the reflective percentages, 20, 40, 40. So it's $2,000 goes to S2, $4,000 goes to P1, and $4,000 goes to P2. Again, $10,000 distributed 20%, 40%, and 40%. Now the original cost of S2 was $20,000. With the redistribution of S1, now the new number is $22,000. Original cost for P1 was $30,000, it's $34,000, and P2 was $40,000 plus $4,000. Now the new cost for P2 is $44,000. The reason it's called step method is we go step by step. First S1, and then we are going to calculate S2. One thing I need to note on S2 is we need to calculate S2 over P1 and P2. There is no reason to go back to S1. We already calculated it. So in effect, this 20% is not relevant anymore. We just need to calculate S2 over P1 and P2. But what we see is we need to do distribute it such that it is 20 to 60 or 1 to 3. So 1 over 3 is the redistribution, and they don't add up to 100%, and they shouldn't, because some of it is S1 that we are ignoring. If we redistribute this just like we did in direct method, what we are finding is P1 actually is 25% and P2 is 75%. The idea is this 1 to 3 relationship or 3 to 1 ratio needs to stay the same, and they need to add up to 100%. In order to do that, it's got to be 25% and 75%. If I want to do it mathematically, what I need to do is divide 20% by the total and 60% by the total. I'm going to get the same numbers, 25% and 75%. Now let's redistribute this 22,000 based on 25 versus 75. 25% multiplied by 22,000 is 5,500. 75% multiplied by 22,000 is 16,500. And I'm going to add whatever I calculated here as the new cost after S1 distribution, 34,000 versus 44,000. And if I add them up, now what I found is redistributing S1 and S2 over P1 and P2. If you note, the sum is still 100,000, just like here, but now the cost is distributed between P1 and P2. Eventually something I need to get to, to calculate the product cost.